It's good. All right. So this is Mark Maldonado, and here we have.
My name is Vaughn, not a Roman.
And today we're going to be going to talk about a little bit of like military culture. So first things first, Vaughn, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do here at school and your major, all that good stuff, and your relation to the military.
All right, so at A&M Corpus, I'm involved with the Student Volunteer Connection, where my job is to coordinate the big event, which takes place in April. It's a campus-wide volunteering event for all students. I'm also involved in the Island Ambassador Program, where I'm basically the face of the school for prospective students who are going to be coming in the following years. My connection to the military, I grew up as a military brat. Everyone in my family was military except for my mom. But other than that, my dad was in the military. He just recently retired this past year, and I believe like August, right before I started at the second year of college. He retired from the military. He joined right after high school, and then has been in the military ever since. So he's been in there for at least, I want to say, probably 30 close years now. Or at least just close to 30. And then after that, my two older siblings, my sister and my brother, both of them are also in the military. Both in the Army as well, same as my dad. And then on my mom's side, my grandpa, he was in the Army as well. He worked as like a radio kind of technician. And then my grandpa on my dad's side, he was Air Force. So he was like the only person in Air Force, I think, out of like everyone that was like military, like in like my family tree. So it was funny because it always kind of created that little like rivalry between the two. But for the most part, Army was like the main one that everyone kind of seemed to.
Everyone decided to join up, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know why. I think it was just like, if I'm going to join the military, I would just go with like, not the basic one, but it's like, this is the easiest one for me to join, so this is what I'm going to join.
Do you think that might have been like a family thing? Like, since like your dad was in it, your like brother and sister were like, oh, maybe we should like join the Army too instead of like any other type of branch?
I don't necessarily know, because so my sister, she did ROTC in high school, same as I did. I did ROTC all 4 years in high school, but it was Air Force ROTC. And so my sister, she also did the same ROTC as me. So like you would have thought like if she was going to join the military, she probably would have like taken that route of like taking the Air Force ROTC and then going into the Air Force. But she went to college for about a year and a half, and then she decided to opt out. And when she opted out, that was when she joined the Army. So I think maybe it was because because my dad was in the Army, so she kind of gravitated towards the Army as well a little bit, rather than the Air Force, even though she like did ROTC in high school for the Air Force. And so it probably would have been easier for her to like go into the Air Force with like the higher rank, like already common knowledge about like it's like marching, chain of command, general knowledge, stuff like that. But I mean, I don't really know what goes on in my siblings' head that made them want to join like that specific branch, but I don't know.
And so, what about you? Would you have joined the Air Force if you did join the military? Like, would you have joined like the Air Force or the Army, or what would you have done specifically?
So, I know I've told you a little bit about this before, but my senior year of high school, I had that brain surgery in the spring. But before that, my commanders, they were, like my instructors, they were all telling me about how, like, they wanted me to try and go to the academies, whether it was, like, West Point, Naval, or Air Force. Obviously, with it being Air Force ROTC, they wanted me to gravitate more towards the Air Force. Yeah. So, like, they wanted me to, like, talk with, like, some of the board people at the Air Force Academy. They wanted me to, like, try and do the fitness test. But then, and I seriously contemplated it for a little bit, just because it was one of those things where one, like, just going to the Air Force Academy is by itself, even like being accepted or like even like acknowledged for that kind of thing is a huge accomplishment for like high schoolers. Like it's like, to me, that's kind of like the Ivy League of like the military schools. It's like just being able to get into those academies just because of how intensive like the selection process is. And I seriously contemplated it for a little bit, and like there's times where like if I didn't have that surgery like senior year of high school, that would have like basically like prohibited me from like joining like any kind of military service. There's times where I wonder if I did kind of like if I decided instead of college just like going straight into the Air Force. But I don't know, I definitely think I probably would have gone into the Air Force just because of all like the knowledge I already had from ROTC, like all the like things I already learned. And I mean, with like general marching stuff, yeah, that can be applied for all of the branches, but it's still one of those things where it's like it's something that I'm more comfortable with, like their commands, their way of like code names, just way of calling things. And also just like the way the uniform is, how it needs to be set up, F ranks, chain of command, all that stuff. It was something that I was already kind of familiar with, so I think it's something that like if I decided not to go into college, I probably would have ended up going probably to the Air Force, even if not like as a commissioned officer, even if that like as enlisted, I probably would have gone that route instead.
And so like ROTC, that wasn't the only thing you did though in high school, right? You said you did like sports and stuff like that? For a little bit, or like football or something?
Yeah, so freshman and sophomore year, I did do football and a little bit of track and field as well. But with that in ROTC, because sophomore year was kind of when I started really getting acclimated into ROTC, so that's when I started becoming like deputy for some of the teams and starting like moving up into the chain of command. And I think it was like going into junior year that like I had become a spirit team commander, who was like one of our, basically this is where we go to the football games and we set up the helmets, run the flags, push up all that stuff. And then I think I had also become like logistics deputy, so I was in charge of for a little bit of like, I obviously worked under the actual logistics commander, but for the most part I helped like keeping track of all the inventory, making sure everything was put away correctly, all that stuff. And I was also when COVID hit. So, like when COVID hit, I like texted my football coaches. I was like, "Hey," I just let them know that like as I'm becoming more acclimated into ROTC, I won't be able to like keep up with like all the football stuff just because of like how much time it's gonna like take for me to balance those two. So, and like with football, like my siblings, they also played sports. Like my brother, he played football as well. And it's just something we grew up doing, but he was like more of like, I wouldn't like say like the trophy child. He was like the trophy child, kind of like you go in his room, like all you see is like medals, trophies, like state championship stuff. So he definitely like had like a bigger impact on sports, and so I felt like I didn't really want to try and make it a thing where it just seemed like I was trying to follow in his footsteps. I wanted to do something. Yeah. And so I just kind of decided, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna just like, rather than focus on sports, let me focus on what like I'm good at, what am I like really making an impact in. So I kind of started leaning more into ROTC, and so from junior year and on, ROTC was like my more like sole commitment. Yeah, it was what I was more committed to and became more acclimated to, and that's where like as soon as I like made that change, like that's when I started like really moving up in the ranks. Like that's when I became like logistics commander. Then from logistics commander, I became deputy corps commander. Then from deputy corps commander, it was corps commander, and then after corps commander, you become there's a specific name for it. I forget the name in the chain of command for ROTC in high school, but it's basically just like you're kind of like helping like the top three, but like you're not like, you don't have like a big commitment. You're just there to help like direct the big three in case they need help and like help them get acclimated with their new positions.
So you think like doing all of that, like how you said your brother like did a lot of football and he was like the trophy child, how did you think your dad felt like being from the military, like once you really decided to just stay solely like ROTC and like you basically wanted like make the military your career? like, do you think he felt like, you know what, I'm okay that he's not doing like football and all this stuff because I'm glad he's taking this like military path because he was in the military himself?
So with that, it was actually funny that you kind of bring that up. So when I told my mom, I was like, hey, I don't know if I want to, because like sports is a big thing in my family, because ever since I was like 3 or 4, or like old enough to like join like my first kind of like little league, I was playing sports. So like in the fall I would always play football, and then as soon as spring came around, like in the football season ended, I was playing soccer. And it was like that like all the way up to like middle school, and then it just became football and track rather than football and soccer. And so like when I told my mom and like just both my parents in general that I kind of wanted to focus more on ROTC because it seemed like that was the path that was kind of working out for me. Because I was also like smaller compared to my brother, because it's like obviously like I'm a taller guy, but like I'm skinnier, and so like me and him, we were both linemen. He was like more of the offensive lineman, I was like more of the defensive lineman. And, like I was a defensive end, so like I didn't have to worry about like going up against like the big guys in the middle of the line. I was just more worried about like getting around the line and getting to the quarterback. And so like when I told my parents that, they were like, you can do that, but just as long as like you're still doing like some kind of physical like active thing in ROTC. And so that's where like after that like I joined the PT team, and that's like when I started doing like PT competitions, orienteering, all these kind of things, just so that way I was still staying active. And I'm glad I did that because it was a good way to like stay active. It did help, and it was overall just kind of fun, like going to the competitions and all that, like at the different schools. But as for like how like my dad probably felt about it, I don't really know, just because like I mean like he's one of those parents, like he's gonna support me in what I do, like he just wants the best for me. So like his way of like doing that was like to put me through sports, like so that way I was staying physically active, like making sure I was having fun and stuff like that. And so like I could definitely tell, because he grew up playing football as well in high school. Like I told you before, he was like one of the captains and all that. So like sports is a big thing for him as well. And so I think like he might have been like not necessarily like hurt, but just like hearing that like one of his kids kind of like not falling out of sports, but like no longer wants to like focus on it. I don't know if it like made him sad or like mad or anything. I thought it made him mad, obviously.
Yeah.
Like he was still proud of me for like what I did in ROTC. And he would still just like show up to my PT competitions. He would still cheer me on, just the same as like a football game. But I mean, I don't really know. Like I can't. Like same with my dad. Like it's hard for me to like tell like what really goes on in his head. But I don't know.
And so, you think like when you were doing sports and all that stuff, like did you ever see him more as like very like tough love and like harsher maybe than like other parents possibly could have been? And like do you think that was because of like him joining the military? Like you think that put a change in him like that, where like not in a bad way obviously, but it changed his mentality of things a little bit?
So, and I've actually had this conversation with my mom about it as well, because she's like said sort of the same thing, where because like I said, we grew up playing like football and soccer and all that, and like he would be the coach for like some of the teams we played. And my mom used to always like tell her, she's like she would like talk to my dad, she'd be like, Gerald, she's like, you know, you talk to these other kids like when they like mess up or like during the game, like you're cheering them on, you're like encouraging them, stuff like that, but when it comes to your kids, like you're tough with them, like not like degrading them, but it's like telling them to like do better, like what they like need to work on and stuff like that. And so I definitely think most of it was like, and he's like, when she said that to him, he was like, it's just like I want like the best for them, like he's like, I want them to like be successful and like push themselves. So I definitely think part of it did just kind of come from like a tough love. Like I don't think he did like anything like in a negative way. Like he didn't. It was like, oh, like my kids suck at sports. It was just like
he wants the best for you.
Yeah, and like if he saw us like lagging behind like in a specific part of sports, he would be like, hey, here's something that like you need to work on. And that like tracked like all the way to like even middle school and high school football. Like after a game or something, he would just constantly tell me, like, rather than me being like, oh, like Dad, I got like a tackle or something, like how was that? He's like no, you should have done better, like you should have gone for this guy instead of going for the other person. And so, and like that kind of sucked like at one point, where it's just like these things that I saw as like little achievements, like yeah, I might have like not on the right guy, but I still like did my job.
Like it felt like he didn't see it that way. He was just like, oh, you can always do something better.
Yeah, and that's where like I think most of it always kind of came from. I don't know if that really stemmed from the military. I think it was just kind of like his thing for sports, or just his like way of like raising me and my siblings up was just like constantly like
with that tough love.
Yeah, just like constantly telling us like what we can work on better, just so that way like we're at our best potential, rather than like us like messing. Because and I'm like, I think I've shown you that movie like Whiplash, where like he talks about like there's no like word more harmful than good job, and it's because like I think if he told us like, oh, or if I messed up on something like in a sport, if I missed a play, or like I accidentally missed something, rather than him telling me like good job and me being like, oh yeah, I messed up but I still did good, he would be like, here's what you messed up on, you need to fix that, or like you need to work on that more. And I definitely think it helped, because rather than me being more than just like oh, it doesn't matter just as long as I'm having fun, like it gave me that drive to like really play the sport and actually like do my best to try and make sure that I was like successful in the sport.
Yeah, because like the biggest thing I've seen is, and like that I've been like researching on, is that a lot of like parents, military parents and stuff, whether it's like with sports or really anything, they just have more of like a tough love compared to any other parent who is just a civilian. And that was the biggest thing that I've seen, because I mean, even I've experienced that with my dad as well, because he was the same way. He was like very tough love. He was in the Army and the Navy for 14 years, and he was very like tough love, very much like, oh, like you can do better, you can do this better. And he's always been like a big sports guy, but at the same time, from what he's told me, he's always been like, I wasn't always like this specific way. Like once I joined, my mentality changed. And he said like for stuff like football or baseball, like baseball was his sport, he played baseball in college, and he was like, I almost like wanted to treat you like you're one of like my soldiers that I was in charge of, and just like tell you what you need to do better on, how you need to work on stuff more, and just like keep on going at it with you. So that's the biggest thing that I've seen just from like my research. And then I know you said you were like a military brat, and for those of you that don't know, a military brat is basically someone whose parents are in the military, and you just get moved around a lot. Like you move around so much, and so you see a bunch of different places. And so
yeah, like when my dad retired, like me and my siblings, and even like my niece, like his granddaughter, like we all got certificates saying like certified like military brat, or like not like certified military brat, was like just like a like little certificate like for being a military brat. Because I know like for most families like that can be really hard, especially for like the kids, like just moving around from place to place. Like that's a big change for some kids. It's just something that like for people who like haven't gone through that experience, or even if they do have that experience with like just moving around in general, whether it's with military parents or not, like not like being in the same spot for like your entire life, like up to high school, versus like being a military kid and like you're having like move around, like your parents are being like deployed or shipped out, and like not seeing them for a long period of time. It's something that like really kind of like shapes your childhood and like shapes like how you are as a person, in my opinion.
And so, what was like the biggest change for you as a military brat? Like moving from where to where was the one where it was like, oh, this is definitely gonna be like a big adjustment compared to everything else?
So compared to other military families that like I've talked to, or like other military kids like that have like moved from like country to country, like we've always kind of stayed within the states. I think the only time we went out of country was one time my dad got deployed to Germany, and I think I was either like super young or I might not have even been born yet, because that's where my brother was born. So my brother actually has like a dual citizenship in Germany because he was born there, like at a military base. But I want to say like I probably lived there for a little bit, like for a year maybe, but and so when I was 3, we moved to Hawaii. We were stationed at a base in Oahu, and I lived there for about 4 years, so from like ages 3 to about 6 or 7.